It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do, you do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday's podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines, headed towards a great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, the venerable John Riley, with his opinions from left field. We welcome you to our Thursday podcast. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, they can be your best friend. Just go to DIXIELINE.com. See all the things they have to offer for you. John Riley, good afternoon. Man, what a cool bunch of storylines we got to talk about, because we got something just ahead called the baseball playoffs. We got the NFL games, college football. We got a ton of different stuff to cover.
I love this last week of the baseball season. It's like, if this team wins, then that team, and then all these scenarios. So it's going to get really fun this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to go a lot of different directions because we do sports talk the way it should be done. We kind of do this podcast like I did my popular sports talk show on radio. But when we are done, after topics on the table, when we are done, we open it up to you. Fans Forum is what we call it. We invite you to join us. Ask a question, make a statement, stand up and sound off. Talk radio used to be get off your ass and get on the phones. Here, you get the chance to join us on the podcast. Piss some people off if you wish. John, how does Fans Forum work?
Okay, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You have a question or comment in the world of sports or Hacksaw, NFL, college football. We're going to talk a little NBA today. We got baseball, of course. So drop your take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube. We'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And we want first-timers. If you've never participated in the Fans Forum, feel free to jump on board. Just designate yourself, I'm a Rookie of the Year candidate. Want to hear what you've got to say. A couple of other reminders. I write a lot of sports every day. It's on my website. The website address is right there on the top of the screen, leehacksawhamilton.com. Check it out. It includes the best 15 minutes in sports, ton of stories there. It includes my very pointed one-man's opinion column. You got to read what I wrote today about Angels baseball, not on the field, but Angels baseball off the field. Check my one-man's opinion column. That's on leehacksawhamilton.com. Want you to join me on social media. Become part of my Twitter all-star team on X. Just type in my name, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. Hit the follow button. Want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Want you to subscribe. When you subscribe, you'll automatically get the alerts every time we add something new to the YouTube channel, and we put 5 to 10 different things per week up on my YouTube channel. Also want you involved in a wide variety of things. Just follow us. Want you to give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating. It really helps us a great deal. John, I'm ready. You're ready. I got a ton of things here.
You do.
To throw at the bulletin board. Let's go.
Okay, let's go. And I mean, as a Padre fan, this is a great headline. Should the Padres be worried? Because I kind of am.
The Padres had a big party after they finally got to the playoffs. So, and I give them space to really enjoy what happened in that locker room, in that clubhouse with the champagne, the beer, and all that. The reality is they have scuffled all season. The reality is baseball's a terrible, terrible grind, and they've fought through injuries like a lot of other people, and this has not been a dominant Padre baseball team. So we finished the weekend with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and then they're going to go on the road, the Padres are, and they're going to go to Chicago, and they're going to play the Cubs. Cubs are not the same baseball team right now that they were when they were pretty doggone explosive and dominant in the middle of the season. But the Padres are not a dominant baseball team right now because of issues with the pitching staff, issues with the batting order, and now a late injury or two that has really sidetracked them. Let's just talk about the pitching situation because that's the focal point of postseason. You got to get quality innings from your starters. Even if you got a gold standard bullpen, you can't have your starters getting knocked around in the second, third, failing to get through the fourth or fifth innings. You got the ace of the staff, Nick Pivetta. How's he going to pitch at Wrigley Field? That's a question. After that, there's question marks. And I thought long and hard about what I was going to say. I'm going to give the ball in Game 2 to Yu Darvish only because he's got this world of experience. And I'm going to back Yu Darvish up with maybe Randy Vasquez. Because I might well need a long reliever if Darvish can't give me quality innings. But based on his heritage, Darvish could give you quality innings. Then we go to Game 3. I'm going to give the ball to Michael King. I don't know what I'm going to get out of Michael King. He'll give me everything he's got. It might be 5 innings. He also might get his brains blown out. Again, it's been a long road rehab run for him. I'm backing Michael King up in Game 3 with Dylan Cease. Cease has not been trustworthy. You know, he has made 11 starts since midseason. He's had only 3 quality starts in that 11. 2 of them are against the Colorado Rockies. So I'm not sure what I'm getting from Cease. He can give you innings. He gets strikeouts. He throws a lot of pitches, but he also gets banged around and allows runs to score. So I think what I'm looking for is Pivetta to give me a great start in Game 1, have an insurance policy in Game 2, an insurance policy in Game 3, and it's all backed up by the gold standard 4 or 5 relievers that I think I can trust coming out of the bullpen. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about what just happened. They lost Ramon Laureano with a really flukish injury. He has fractured the index finger on his right hand. Looks as if he's done for an extended period of time. Not just the end of the season, not just the wild card week, but even if this thing goes farther than that. Now, he hit .315 for a chunk of time, but he was also hitting .148 of late. They do have Bryce Johnson. They do have Gavin Sheets. They do have Ryan O'Hearn. They can probably mix and match, but it probably won't be the same without Laureano because Laureano had pitched really well. And in my heart, they're going to miss Jason Adam. Now, granted, that was weeks ago when he suffered the quad injury, but they're going to miss him because he was relentless and he was really, really trustworthy. So should the Padres be worried? I think so. Because this is a Padres team, if you recall, was 14-3 out of the gate. And since that time, this Padres team is just scuffling to stay above 500 since they were 14-3.
Yeah.
And have not played dominant baseball on the road by any stretch of the imagination. So even though there's a weekend series here with Arizona, I'm looking forward to Tuesday. But that's tough. That's a best of 3 at Wrigleyville. Now, granted, the Cubs aren't the same team yet. We'll talk about the Cubs in Monday's podcast. You're the one that wrote the headline, Should the Padres Be Worried? You react to what I said. You give me your spin.
Yes, I mean, the whole Laureano thing was awful. I mean, he didn't even get hit, did he?
No, he swung at a pitch.
And it just sort of torqued his finger or something. It was bizarre. And then you saw, okay, maybe he was a little hurt, maybe he sprained a finger, but then you see a fracture. It's like such the San Diego sports curse. Yeah. It's just another thing. So here's one of the commentaries I was checking in on with Padres Twitter this morning, is there's a worry that the Padres are going to go to Chicago, most likely. They're going to have a ton of left-handed bats now, and they got to face Imanaga, and then one of the other starting pitchers for the Cubs is a lefty, and that's going to kill them. I mean, first of all, have you heard any news on Tatis?
No, he's being tested for COVID, but he's been sick all week.
So hypothetically, let's assume worst-case scenario, no Tatis.
No, that's a reach.
Okay, well then, even if you don't, I mean, you're going to have, to your point, you're going to have in the batting order, you're going to have Sheets, O'Hearn, Arise, Cronenworth, and Merrill. So there's 5 left-handed hitters
against Imanaga.
Yeah,
and Matt Boyd. That's the second left-hander.
That's the other one. Yeah.
But those guys have not pitched the way those guys pitched middle of the season either. The Cubs got glitches too.
So it's potentially trouble. And obviously, if Tatis ain't there, then it's Bryce Johnson. That's another lefty. But it's troublesome. I mean, Laureano was the gem of the trade deadline, probably the best pickup around the league. Your comments on the starting pitching and the piggyback sounds good. I'm on board with what you had to say there. Yeah, you're bummed out about Jason Adam, but especially because Estrada, it doesn't have the same mojo that he had earlier in the year.
He looks fatigued. He's giving up home runs.
Well, and then Morhome was fatigued because remember he had pitched like 3 games in a row. Then I think he took Monday or Tuesday off, and then he pitched on Wednesday, and that's when he gave up that go-ahead single against Milwaukee. But I want to ask you another question. So you were talking about the celebration, right? The champagne, the locker room. Do you ever get a sense that Major League Baseball tells the teams, to kind of choreograph these moments. Because, you know, every time there's a walk-off, they all come running out and they're all giddy. And I know they're probably excited, but it makes the fans feel good about the win.
It's social media, pal.
Well, yeah. Well, it's great for the promotion of it. But sometimes I wonder, are you having champagne just because you qualified for the playoffs? Usually it's like if you win a pennant or win the World Series.
That's right.
But also, I just generally wonder if they are given instructions on being celebratory at the end of games and to definitely make these kinds of champagne festivals happen.
I think so. I think they're just trying to incorporate enthusiasm and drag the fan in. That's like a couple years ago, and they should have brought it back. The Padres and the swag chain.
The one that with the spinner. Yeah, that was cool.
That was kind of cool for half the season.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you go on a losing streak, they had to put it away. They've never, ever brought some of that stuff back. Every ball club now has some type of gimmick in the dugout after big home runs.
Well, that's
or
the other one.
Yeah.
That's the other one. Like, you know, with Iglesias, it was the OMG and the Mets in the dugout. And, you know, with the Mariners are putting on sailor caps and all kinds of crazy stuff. But I just think it's all very orchestrated, and look at all the merch they sell, because all the stores sell the gold chain with the spinner on it.
I'm walking down the hallway. I'm looking for the swag chain that's in your closet, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and you see those swag chains in the NFL and everything. So it's all marketing orchestration.
It's interesting, though, because I got emails. People emailed me through my website and said, "Why are we celebrating the way we're celebrating? We just kind of stumbled into the playoffs. We're not even a first-place team, and these guys are celebrating like it's the end of October, and look what we won. Everyone bleep."
Yeah.
So some of the people, maybe that's old school people, were a little bit offended. But my response to a couple of my emailers through my website was, these guys grind. These guys are ballers. And these guys more than any other roster, they're there every night, and they're in the lineup every night. So let's give them a little space just to celebrate. But there's still work to be done. Still, to me, there's still things that have to be proven starting next Tuesday at Wrigleyville.
Well, you know, Scanlon was saying, those guys are a little fuzzy. Remember, most of the stars had the day off. So, they had some bruise. Good for them. But I know, I'm sure Dodger fan is asking, hey, when you scheduling the parade in downtown San Diego? But anyways, have the celebration. They took 2 or 3 from Milwaukee, and you got the final run here against the Diamondbacks, and maybe magic will happen.
We shall see, but that's where we are. I'm calling in all my insurance policy pitchers. They better be ready effective Tuesday against the Cubs. So that's all things Padre baseball. You got a response from the different hot points buttons that we've just pushed. Feel free to join us in the Fans Forum chat box right now. We go from that. Let's talk about the first place team, the Dodgers.
Dodgers, a lot of worries about that bullpen, Lee.
Yeah, you fire up the headline on the Dodgers, and Dave Roberts issued a lot of challenges to Dodger relief pitchers this week. Do your damn job. He was really upset after they blew leads Tuesday and Wednesday. Dodgers have 11 walk-off losses this season, 27 blown saves on the season. Their bullpen has accounted for 32 losses this year. And Dave Roberts lectured his players in a team meeting, his pitchers, stop pitching with a fear of failure. His quote was, "Where is your conviction? You did this. You succeeded at this. Get back to being who you are and have shown who you can be." Okay, you got the graphic with the Dodgers and the board. You want to put this up here?
These numbers are ugly.
Look at this. These are the top 5 guys on the Dodger bullpen and where they are. Tanner Scott, since coming off the disabled list, has a 7.27 ERA, has blown 10 saves. Tanner Scott, since the All-Star break, his earned run average is in excess of 8. You can't trust him. And then you got Blake Treinen, who's been hurt, came back off the disabled list. His ERA is 5.55. He's given up 11 runs in his last 5 innings. 5 outings, he's given up 11 runs. Can't trust him. Kirby Yates, ERA, 5.23, gone. This morning they put him back on the disabled list. He's got hamstring problems. Michael KOPECH, who has had all types of injury problems, went to Oklahoma City, brought back, can't throw strikes, physically is not right. He's gone. He was just put on the disabled list. And, of course, as you know, there is no Evan Phillips. He's been out all season with arm surgery in spring training. That's a lot of money tied up in a lot of guys who are at the front of the bullpen. He can't trust any of them. And they've overworked Alex Vesia, and that's a big issue. Last night, Clayton Kershaw met with Dave Roberts and said, I will pitch out of the bullpen right now. He normally has his between starts throwing session. Came up last night. He said, I'm not going to throw my throwing session as if I'm going to make another start. I'm ready to pitch out of the bullpen.
Cool.
He threw one shutout inning. Roki Sasaki came in from Oklahoma City, was activated before the game. They gave him the ball. He threw one shutout inning with strikeouts. So suddenly, the Dodgers reaching, get two of their starters and put them in the pen because they're so deep in, obviously, the starting rotation. The burning question is, what are they going to do in postseason? Are they going to move Emmett Sheehan out of the rotation, and he's pitched really well? Or are they going to make him first guy on call if we need a long reliever and somebody is in trouble? So the Dodgers are not home free by any stretch of the imagination, but suddenly they have Sheehan. They could flip into the pen as a long guy. You got Kershaw for one inning, Sasaki for one inning, but those are one-day appearances. They can't use those guys on back-to-back. You ask them to go 2 days in a row. So I'm going to be intrigued just to see where they go. But Dave Roberts he's beside himself, and he challenged those guys, and those guys still are not getting the job done. Reaction.
Well, Tanner Scott is clearly spooked by all this. I mean, he was saying baseball hates me, but I saw a graphic on some other program where since September 1st, Tanner Scott's ERA is like 11-something, So these numbers are probably the active season ERA. So in the last month or two, they've been worse. Bummer about Kirby Yates. I didn't know about him, having to step out. But, yeah, this is all shaping up how I expected, though, is that you're going to have Kershaw and Sheehan and Sasaki, and you're going to have enough guys, that are quality arms that are going to be able to fill in that playoff roster. And if you happen to shed a Yates or you put Treinen and Scott in timeout or something and not use them, or maybe not even put them on the active playoff roster, you still have enough guys. And by the way, what do you think of Sasaki? I mean, that was pretty impressive, don't you think?
Well, he had 3 straight one-inning outings at Oklahoma City when they went to him and said, we're going to take you out of the rotation, where he was scuffling. We just want you to throw 1 inning per outing, use your pitches that you are confident in, and he went out and boom, splitter, fastball, splitter. That's all he threw, struck out a ton of people, and that's what the role is going to be here. One-trick pony, if you will. But if you can get 1 quality inning out of him, 1 quality inning out of Kershaw, or maybe long innings out of Sheehan, is built to be a starter, and that'll get you maybe to Vesia. Although Vesia that's not consistent.
Well, see, again, this is all working out nicely for the Dodgers because it was doom and gloom. We've been thinking about doom and gloom. Here's Roki Sasaki, the Manhattan Project, this new whiz-bang weapon. And if he's going to go max velocity for 1 inning, that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly what they need. So I just think there's a lot of pieces of, individual pitchers. They're going to make that playoff roster, and they got a lot to pick from. But, yeah, they're going to take like 4 or 5 guys and say, you're not going, to who's going to be in the 6th seed.
Yeah, the postseason roster to be announced on Monday when we're on the air. That's going to be intriguing to see who gets left off.
That's kind of the interesting thing is how they're going to configure it. And then it'll depend on matchups because who are the ones involved? It's the Mets or the Reds.
Or Arizona.
So, okay.
Okay. Here's a final thought on these 2 teams that we just talked about. Who's got the bigger problem? Padres right now or Dodgers right now?
No, definitely the Dodgers. I mean, that bullpen is like a dark cloud hanging over, the pitchers, Dave Roberts, everybody. No one has faith in them. Sure, you're going to have Kershaw and Sasaki, and they can hopefully fill some gaps, but the bullpen's been unable to step up. So they know it's an Achilles heel that's going to bite them in the butt at some point. In my sense, I think right now the Padres are kind of trending up again. Okay, 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, number 1 team in the NL. So right now, of course, the Padres missing Laureano. That's a huge miss. But I'd have to say that the Dodgers have the weak spot that could be exploited if everything goes bad.
Okay, fans forum chat box is open. Padre fan, respond to everything we've talked about. Dodger fan, dive in here with an opinion. And who do you think's in bigger trouble as we go towards the beginning of the playoffs? Wild card week is just around the corner. We're not done with baseball. The other topic is a team that's not going to be in postseason, but a team that's going to be in the headlines effective next week, and this is awful.
Yeah, I mean, I read that in your one man's opinion column, and this is brutal for the Angels.
Let's talk about the Angels situation. We'll type in this headline in a second. The Angels are being sued by Tyler Skaggs and his family, the late Angel pitcher who died of a drug overdose in 2019. The case is now going to court next week. Judges resolved all the motions that have been filed. The trial will take place. The Angels are of the opinion that Tyler Skaggs, the left-handed pitcher who died of a drug overdose in Texas in 2019, hid from the team his drug addictions while he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then he came to Anaheim and his addictions got worse. The family is of the opinion you fueled these addictions because your public relations director was a drug addict himself, Eric Kay, and he was the one that was feeding Skaggs, selling him drugs, including amphetamines, including the fentanyl that killed him. These are the bullet points and the headlines that are going to be presented in the opening statements. That there is evidence now that Tyler Skaggs was addicted to PERCOCET painkillers as far back as when he pitched for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and he never told anybody about it in Anaheim. And his family was aware that he had that addiction problem. They never told the Angel organization. Now there's evidence that Eric Kay, the PR director, went and got OXYCODONE prescriptions illegally and distributed them to Tyler Skaggs. That on the night he died of the drug overdose in Texas, he had consumed 10 to 15 drinks that night prior to taking these pills. The Angels medical people say that Tyler Skaggs died of a cardiac arrhythmia. He had a large amount of oxycodone in his system. He had a minute amount of fentanyl in his system, and the fentanyl did not kill him. But because he was a drug addict who had lied for all the years he was with the Angels about the fact he'd been taking stuff since he was in Arizona, that Tyler Skaggs killed himself, and the Angels should not be held responsible. Now, at the end of the day, the family says it told the team it feared that the PR director, Eric Kay, was providing illegal prescriptions to Tyler Skaggs. Eric Kay's wife went to the Angels and said she feared that the PR director had had a drug relapse. Mike Trout reportedly offered to pay to get Eric Kay into a drug rehab center out of his own salary. And, of course, there's all the ancillary stuff that has surfaced during the probe that Eric Kay was dealing not only to Tyler Skaggs, he was dealing to Matt Harvey, C.J. Cron, Cam Bedrosian, and other players. And these other players are going to be dragged in and asked to testify what they knew, what they got, etc. This is a story of just tragic proportions. This is deep. This is dark for a franchise that has had problems and problems and problems off the field. Aside from the problems on the field with injuries, wasted money on free agency, other tragic deaths of players, and now the Tyler Skaggs situation. And I feel for Artie Moreno. I feel for some of the people in that organization that I know that have been dragged into this abyss. So I guess the burning question, John, this is pretty dark. This is pretty deep. The burning question I ask you, who's to blame for all this? Is it Tyler Skaggs, drug addict-liar? Or is it Angels not controlling, not knowing, and not removing the guy that was dealing drugs once they got him into rehab and found out all the depths of what Eric Kay was all about? Very complicated story.
It is complex. I mean, to answer your question directly, I mean, Tyler Skaggs is responsible for his own life, so you got to have the initial level of blame there. But in the second priority level of blame would be Kay, because he was dealing. And by the way, I don't know how in the hell all these ball players could be athletes on the field taking this stuff, And then really the third level, the third priority in terms of blame has to be the Angels organization for not managing what was going on. They got to know these kinds of things that are happening in the clubhouse and to a certain degree off the field.
Angels knew that Eric Kay had drug problems. Eric Kay's wife went to the Angels and said he has relapsed. The Angels paid to get him into rehab. He was in rehab, I was told, 3 different occasions. They took him off the job, they sent him, and he entered himself in the hospitals. However, federal law says once he has completed that rehab program, he comes out with authorization from the doctor. The doctor says he has completed this. They have to give him his job back. You can't terminate him.
That's a bad law.
Well, so anyhow,
yeah,
that's the Angels are standing by that federal law that is on the books at this point in time. It's a terrible story. I'm so torn about this because it's so dark, and there's so many people affected by this. At the end of the day, though, Tyler Skaggs was an addict by his own choosing to begin with, and then became addicted to everything else that Eric Kay was giving him. And Eric Kay is in jail, in prison for 22 years for dealing drugs. So I'm not sure where the Angels lay in terms of the guilt aspect of this, but to me, sadly, I think there's more to blame on Tyler Skaggs than there is on anybody else.
Yeah, it has to start there. But, they're going to go for the deep pockets, right? So they're going to go to the MLB franchise, the gazillionaire owner, and try to get as much as they can. I just think about Tyler Skaggs, the person, because if he was that addicted to drugs, what he is addicted is to escaping reality. And so there was obviously some kind of a problem psychologically or maybe in his past. It makes you wonder what drove him to this, because to a person like you or I who played baseball as a little kid, Tyler Skaggs is living the American young boy little league dream.
Yep.
He's on a major league team. He's pitching and making money doing it. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that if you're a baseball fan. So I don't know his background. I have no idea. I just wonder what caused it all.
Well, I also he was hurt in Arizona, and that's how he got addicted to Percocet, which is a painkiller. But at the end of the day, I mean, there were shortcomings in the person. And I thought about this from a different perspective. Where the hell is the union in all this? The union's got a great drug program with help for any player that needs it. No union intervention. He failed no drug test. He was doing this stuff in the season, getting buzzed. And even when he had these random tests, none of this ever showed. Where's the Players Association and their drug program? But to me, the bulk of it falls on him because he kept doing it. If he wanted to kick it, that's the 800 number that's posted in that clubhouse on every wall, that if you got personal problems, you call this number on behalf of the union, and we will take you to the right people.
Well, of course, Skaggs is not going to want to call that number because he doesn't want to, be found out, right? And so he's going to be sneaky, and then his teammates, you think, would call on his behalf, but they don't want to throw their teammate under the bus. They want to protect him. And so in the end, Skaggs suffers. Help was available. And this would be a time really for management to step up and call the union on behalf of the team and say, hey, you got to look at this player.
And it'll be interesting because they've deposed, I was told they deposed 53 people. They deposed Angel players who were friends with him and saw all this going on. They've deposed players that pitched with Skaggs in Arizona and in other spots, and players from other teams that are probably going to be dragged into the courtroom and asked to testify about what they knew, when they knew it, etc. To me, it's just a tragic story.
Well, what's interesting, by the way, in your article was all the other Angels players that have suffered tragic deaths.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you had Lyman Bostock and Donnie Moore, and who was the other kid? Who was it?
Minnie Rojas died in an auto accident. Nick Aidenhart was killed by a drunk driver.
Aidenhart, yeah. I don't know. Minnie who?
Minnie Rojas, relief pitcher way back in the 70s.
I don't remember that name, but the other three for sure. I mean, didn't Lyman Bostock play for the Brewers, if I remembered? But
he played for a whole bunch of people, but he was gunned down in Chicago.
Yeah, because when I saw it in the One Man's Opinion, I went and looked it up on Wikipedia, and he was just a passenger in a car and got hit by a bullet. It was just a random thing, and it was like a few hours after the ball game had ended. It was just awful.
So You're an Angel fan. We've tried to give you the depth of the story. I think it's a horrible story, and it has to be discussed, has to be covered. I'll be intrigued to see where this goes. From what I gather, there will be no out-of-court settlement because the Skaggs family is asking for almost $800 million in damages, and the Angels say it was on him. It's not on us. But a lot of really good people in that organization are being dragged into this abyss. Angel fans forum chat box is open. Feel free to get involved. That's all things baseball. We're going from that. We move on to the National Football League, John.
Yeah, week 4. Are you ready for some football? Here we go.
Yeah. Let's talk about storylines around the National Football League because the divisional races are now in high gear and teams are starting to separate themselves at the top. And down at the bottom, there's some people in really big trouble. Big games this weekend. Philadelphia takes that great defense, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley. They go to Tampa. Home field advantage, probably going to play into this a little bit. Baker Mayfield has had an unbelievable, statistically dominant season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker's got 6 touchdowns, no interceptions, hardly any sacks. He's got his hands full with the Philadelphia pass rush. Eagles' defense has given up 268 yards per game. They make the quarterback work to get anything accomplished. They've also got 11 quarterback sacks. The unique thing, Philadelphia's offense is not right now what Philadelphia's offense has been before. They got a lot of problems in the offensive line. Here's a notation for you today. They've had, they lost their big Pro Bowl right guard, Mekhi Becton, who jumped to the Chargers. He's hurt again. They lost Lane Johnson, their big right tackle. Nobody's talked about this. He's got a neck injury. He got hurt in the tush push in the beginning of the game.
You've been waiting for this to happen.
Well, I'm telling you, because the coaches are saying this is a dangerous play. Now, the top right tackle, he's one of the best tackles in the league, he got hurt in the tush push. And a lot of people have projected this could happen. So you got Philly going to Tampa. Somebody's going to get beat. Somebody's not going to be 4-0 by the time we get to Sunday night. Colts-RAMS out here. Daniel Jones just on fire. The former Giant quarterback now in Indy. The Colts are 3-0. Can you believe the Colts are 3-0? Daniel Jones has a quarterback rating of 111, and Jonathan Taylor, his running back, is averaging 5.6 yards per carry. And they're playing pretty good defense in Indianapolis. But that's the Rams. That's the Rams and Jared Verse in their defense. That's the Rams who got 12 quarterback sacks already this season. That's Matthew Stafford's offense that's averaging 367 yards per game. This is going to be a litmus test game for Indianapolis. But I think they're going to get singed because I think the Rams are too good. Baltimore, Kansas City. Can you believe by Sunday night one of these teams is going to be 1-3 and in real trouble? You just look at Baltimore. This is not Ravens football. They've given up 415 yards per game. Now, they got a mess of injuries in the defensive front. They just can't stop anybody. They have only 2 takeaways and only 3 sacks. That's not John Harbaugh football. Now, Lamar Jackson, he's got a quarterback rating of 141. He's got 12 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, he's playing really well. Nobody else is playing very well at all. And, of course, you got Derrick Henry, who had the one really great game, has had 2 bad games, and has got fumble problems all of a sudden. Where'd that come from? In terms of Kansas City, they got Mahomes, and they don't have anything else. Kansas City right now is really substandard on offense. They're averaging, their top running backs are averaging 3 yards per carry. They can't run the bleeping ball. And outside of the kid, Tyquan Thornton, they're not hitting any passes down the field. And Travis Kelce just does not look like the same Travis Kelce that we've seen up until about a year ago. So Kansas City, they're in big trouble. Somebody is going to be 1-3 by Sunday night. The other big game is Green Bay, Dallas. Everybody's amped to see Micah Parsons come in here wearing green and gold. That's going to be an intriguing game there at AT&T Stadium in Dallas-Fort Worth. Packers defense. Nobody's talked about this. They got 10 sacks already, led by, obviously, Micah Parsons. They're only giving up 232 yards per game. Here comes Dak Prescott. This offense is averaging 393 in Dallas. Now, they don't have C.D. Lamb. He went down with a bad ankle injury last week. He's out. So if George Pickens is ever going to make a statement about, I'm a big star in Dallas, it better be this weekend. But they're going up and down the field. Like I said, they're averaging 393, but they have to. Their defense is giving up 397. I mean, it's one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And this is the team that traded away Micah Parsons in the contract dispute. So this will be fun. Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love versus a really leaky Dallas defense. Dallas's explosive offense against Micah Parsons in the pass rush. Those are four marquee games to pay attention to, as I'd say. Must-see TV, dude.
Oh, for sure. I mean, those are all four of those are great. And just kind of working from the bottom up, the Cowboys Packers. I saw a story that Micah Parsons is kind of feeling a little weird about having to sack Dak Prescott because they're such friends. It's like his buddy, so he's going to be taking him down. So you got the drama in that one. I mean, the Ravens-Chiefs is like another playoff match. I mean, that's going to be great. I mean, yeah, Lamar Jackson's got to be pulling his hair out. I mean, if you see his hair when he pulls off his helmet lately, it's changed. But he's a great guy on the field. And I'll tell you what, his defense is not backing him up, So I feel for those guys. By the way, when I see the Colts and the Rams, the side-by-side, I think of Marshall Faulk.
Sure.
That's like the link to me between those two teams. And then Eagles, Bucks. Here's just an oddball question. Have you ever noticed when you're looking at the Jalen Hurts, the back of his jersey, he's got the number 1 there. But it's like a squat number 1. It's like been shortened. I often wonder, does he have like a rib cage protector?
Oh yeah, they all wear that stuff.
And then the jersey is like really snug and tight, and so it has a couple of ripple folds in it, and it takes the number 1 and squishes it down to be this high.
You're always worried about aesthetics, aren't you? You dress the way you dress, you're worried about how somebody else looks.
Yeah.
Me included. But yeah, you are correct there. It's a really cool weekend of games. And like I say, by Sunday night, there are going to be some people that are going to be in trouble in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Especially whoever does not survive Baltimore, Kansas City, they're going to be in big trouble. Those are the top games, must-see TV. You got a comment. Fans Forum chat box is open. Looking for NFL fans. They hit a deep pass here. Get on board. We're not done. NFL Notebook, a lot of unique storylines here to yak about.
Yeah, quarterback changes.
New York Giants did it. Brian Daboll, the coach, said it was my decision. I'm not sure I buy that. But anyhow, they're sitting Russell Wilson, and they're going to Jackson Dart, the number 1 draft pick out of Ole Miss. He is going to start against a Charger defense that's really playing with its hair on fire. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson had one good game. The other 2 games, they could not move the football. Threw for 160 and 168. Russell Wilson is sitting. He's got 3 touchdowns, 4 turnovers, 7 sacks in 3 games, completing only 59% of his passes. They just could not move the football. He looks like an old man right now, and he doesn't have a lot of people around him because of injury issues there. Dart is going to have his hands full. But Dart's got no fear. I mean, he's just a gunslinger. And he'll face a lot of bullets because the Chargers are probably going to blitz him into submission. It is odd, though, that Brian Daboll comes right out after this group of meetings on Sunday night, Monday, and Tuesday and announcing Jackson Dart will be the quarterback, the starter. And he promptly follows up the next day by saying he will be the starter for the rest of the year. Rest of the year. Russell Wilson was asked about that yesterday. Russell Wilson said, I'm a teammate. I'm going to support this kid, and I'm going to continue to be a Giant. I'm not going to ask for my release. And the third guy in the equation, Jameis Winston, if they were looking for something different, Winston's bigger, more physical, more athletic, you would have thought maybe Winston might have been put in to replace Russell Wilson just based on the experience factor because they're right in the middle of a bunch of tough games. But no, so I don't know what Winston's thinking either. Maybe Winston's going to wind up being traded. But so that's where it is. It's Jackson Dart from here on out. And Giant fans, they've been chanting for this guy since the start of preseason. Now they're going to get the chance to see. We'll see how he plays. Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix, vote of confidence. Geez, we're only 3 weeks into the season. They've given him a vote of confidence already. 3 games, 1 touchdown pass. He's really struggling. I don't know if the league has caught up to him. There was a lot of consideration. Are you going to play Kirk Cousins, a $37 million backup quarterback? And Raheem Morris said no. this is our guy. We're going to play this guy. We're going to work through this bump in the road there. Houston, that's messy. They're 0-3. C.J. Stroud, the protection's been really poor. They made a lot of changes, and for some reason, something's really missing in Houston. Their defense is playing really well. They just got rid of a troublemaker, though. This is weird. They cut safety C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He was a starter. They had just given him, during camp, they gave him a $6.5 million signing bonus. Wow. And they just ate it, and they cut him. But he was angry. He was blaming the coaches. He was blaming his teammates for this 0-3 start. At that point, that head coach said, no, not in this locker room. You're not doing that. They ate the contract, and they cut him loose. So that's a stunner. Last topic on the table is Pro Football Hall of Fame. How cool is this? Did you see the ballot? They just released the ballot for 2026 of the Hall of Fame, 128 names. The committee will now whittle down the names as we go through the next group of months. Included on the list of the Hall of Fame candidates, first-timers, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, fullback Lorenzo Neal, in addition to the great star wide receiver of the Arizona Cardinals, Larry Fitzgerald. And, of course, the remaining names who did not get in last year are also eligible again this year, led by Eli Manning. But how about that? Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Lorenzo Neal from the San Diego Chargers on the Hall of Fame ballot.
You're not still bitter, are you?
No, I'm just quoting what is out there.
Okay. All right, just a few comments here. First of all, I'm thrilled for the Giants fans, but be careful what you ask for, right? We're going to get 3 or 4 weeks down the road, and they're going to be like, give the ball to Jameis Winston, You got
to punch up on your cell phone who they play in the next 4 weeks.
Well, it's the Chargers this week. I haven't looked beyond that. But
look beyond that.
But Winston he's kind of a character, but to me, he's like the safety net, If everybody breaks their leg, you can roll him out. The other comments here, Penix, I'm rooting for that guy, because he wasn't, a big SEC guy. He wasn't Michigan, Ohio State. He was like in the lesser Indiana, played in the Pac-12 on Washington. He's a lefty, so you kind of root for him. But he threw that ugly pick 6 last week, and you're like, So when you've got Kirk Cousins on the bench, that controversy is never going to go away. The example you shared about the Texans, to me, that sounds like addition by subtraction, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, you got to get rid of these malcontents. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then it's neat seeing Rivers and Brees connected because they were connected in San Diego. Yep. And Lorenzo Neal has got to be one of the top 5 fullbacks of all time.
Exactly. In an era in which that position has now been kind of eradicated from most everybody's playbook.
And then it also makes you wonder, why in the heck couldn't the Chargers win with all these guys?
Well said. I concur with you. Okay, you got comments on the NFL Notebook? Feel free. Fans Forum chat box is open. We get to halftime. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations in San Diego to serve you. They do unbelievable things at DIXIELINE, but the thing that they're probably most important, in addition to supplying all the contractors, John, is the unique things they can do in my home, in your home, at this castle. And I'm talking about cabinets. I'm talking about renovations of the kitchen. I'm talking about changing the look of your bathroom. I'm talking about doing stuff in the bedroom, doing stuff in the man cave in my library. DIXIELINE Lumber does all that. And DIXIELINE Lumber also has what I'd call the tool center, which is great for anybody that is interested that is a home do-it-yourselfer. So you take it from here, carry the ball, don't fumble it, but I know you got a lot of opinions about DIXIELINE too.
Well, I do. I mean, I'm just, all the things you said, I'm like looking here, hey, what video do you think we should play? And so, because sometimes we like to have these going on in the background. Here's some kitchens. And I think we showed this one last week. This is a good one. Before and after these kitchen remodels. So sometimes people, like if you want to remodel your kitchen, you want to do something. Where do you start? I mean, do you get a hold of a contractor? Is there a guy Or do you go to a home center like DIXIELINE Lumber and look at some cabinets? I mean, how does this whole thing begin? I mean, it's a big project, So the great thing about DIXIELINE is that if you go in any of their retail stores, they're going to have kitchen and bath remodel experts there that are going to walk you through the process. They're going to tell you about, how they'll come in. The DIXIELINE rep will help you kind of lay out the kitchen. They'll sketch it out. They'll show you where the cabinets are going to go, how to do the countertops, the amount of the backsplash, kind of behind the countertop, and they measure it it all out, and they provide a plan for you. And then, it's on you as a homeowner to get the contractor, but in the end, DIXIELINE can kind of help bridge that and be a partner with the contractor you choose to make it happen. So it's a great place to go. After you're done kind of going through Pinterest and all these other websites looking for ideas, and you got an idea, kind of roll into DIXIELINE, and they'll help you get it done.
DIXIELINE Lumber, 9 locations to serve you. Thinking about projects for the rest of 2025 into the new year? Just go to DIXIELINE.com, see all the things that they have to offer. Hey, listen, just a couple of reminders. When we're done putting topics on the table, because we do sports talk the way it should be done, we let you take over this podcast. So stake a claim, tell us what you think, ask a question, make a statement. It's in the segment called Fans Forum. John?
Stake a claim. Show me your Aztec spear. Okay, so we got here on the live stream and the live chat. I'm seeing names. I'm seeing Alejandro. I'm seeing Teamer and Michael and John and Greg and Gordon and Callan and XX Revolution and Carlos. You're all in the house. So this is your chance to get involved. You have a question or comment for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton,
or John Riley with his opinions from left field.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to answer your questions as well. So type in your comment or question in the live chat on YouTube, X, or on Facebook, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Fans Forum comes up right at the end of the podcast. Just a reminder, I write a lot of sports every day. It's on my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. I invite you, I urge you to read it. You won't believe the volume of information I provide on a day-in, day-out basis. The best 15 minutes in sports is what I title it. You can access that on the page. And my One Man's Opinion column. You got to read my One Man's Opinion column today on the tragedy that has become Angel Baseball. But that's on the website. It's their first thing every morning. Go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Want you to share. Tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Subscribe. When you subscribe, you will get the alert every time we put something new up on the YouTube channel. Also, join Hacksaw's Insiders group. That'll get you on my private email list. You can register just by going to my website. Just fill out the orange box right on the home page. Get on Hacksaw's Insiders group. Want you on social media? I want you to follow what I say. Take part in my Hacksaw mini polls. I ask some really intriguing questions every day. Just go to X, type in my name, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, hit the follow button. That way you'll be able to follow us on all of the different social media venues.
Yeah, right on. Hacksaw, you're live and interactive in the 21st century.
Not bad for a guy that's got a Royal Manual typewriter still stored in his garage. Trust me on that.
That joke never gets old.
Yeah. Let's move to the second half of our Thursday podcast, heading towards a great sports weekend, because we talk baseball, we talked NFL football. Boy, we got some great games in college football, John.
Yeah, college football matchups. Look at these teams right here.
Ohio State goes on the road. They're going to go to Seattle. I mean, it's a really great Buckeyes team, ranked number 1. It's a Huskies team that's building back up with a pretty good coach in Jed Fish. This is going to be the battle of the kid quarterbacks. Jalen Salen has kind of played protected at Ohio State. He's the kid, of course, from Carlsbad. It's easy to play at home against substandard opponents. It's easy to play when you get a good program around you. Now they're going to the hostile environments of Husky Stadium in Seattle. And Washington has got a really good quarterback. He's getting no national recognition at all. They force-fed him as a freshman last year. Demon Williams is really good. So this bears watching to watch the Huskies. Can they ambush the Buckeyes? The battle of the kid quarterbacks. Second game is going to be in Happy Valley. Penn State, Oregon. This is going to be a doozy. Drew Allar, senior quarterback, Penn State, turned down all the money, didn't transfer, turned down the chance to go to the NFL. He's back. This guy's a veteran guy, can move the ball, throw the football. I don't know if he's a first-round draft pick in the NFL, but he manages games and he does win games. Penn State historically has also got a great defense. The Ducks haven't played anybody in non-conference. Now they're going to State College and they're playing somebody. And they got a really good young quarterback, Dante Moore. He's the kid that transferred from UCLA. He does not turn the football over, and they do have big strike capabilities downfield. That's going to be a hell of a game. Dan Lanning is a great coach at Oregon. Here's the stunning stat, though, about Penn State's coach, James Franklin. Do you know, against top 10 teams over the course of his career at Penn State, He's 5 for 20. 5 and 20 against top 10. Top 10 teams. So Nittany Lions got to prove themselves as they get ready to take on the Oregon Ducks. Third game, SEC, Georgia, Gunnar Stockton, Georgia, really good football program. Alabama, tell you what, nobody believes in Kalen DeBoer. If they go in and get their brains blown out between the hedges in Athens, he might not be the head coach when he comes back on Saturday night. You know, we've already had 5 head coaches have lost their job in the first 4 weeks of the college football season. And there's a lot of non-believers about the Alabama head coach. Other college football tidbits. Speaking of coaches, let's talk about Oklahoma. Heisman Trophy candidate Johnny Mateer, gone. Broken hand, hit it on a helmet last week. Played the whole game. Surgery, probably gone 4 weeks at least. That's a bit of a blow to the Oklahoma Sooners. It probably cost him the Heisman Trophy. Oklahoma State, they have fired their head coach Mike Gundy. They are 1-12 in the last year and a half. This program went right off the road. It is stunning because his career record in Stillwater is 170-90. But boy, there's a lot of stuff that has swirled around Mike Gundy in Stillwater. Bullied kids in the transfer portal, feuded with player representatives. He was the one that made the comment last year, "Don't you dare have your agent call me and ask for more money. I gave you what I think you're worth." He had a real problem with turnover on his staff, assistant coaches coming and going, and made some real mistakes in terms of he hired. He just turned off everybody with his belligerent attitude towards anything and everything. Mike Gundy, and he was a great player at Oklahoma State way back as a star quarterback, out of there, gone. So that was a bit of a stunner. And the last one is UCLA. His story has not gotten a lot of coverage. UCLA's legendary players of yesteryear held a Zoom call and asked for a meeting with Martin Jarmond, the besieged athletic director at UCLA, the aftermath of the firing of Deshaun Foster, the aftermath of the mess with Chip Kelly. And the meeting was chaired by Troy Aikman and Cade McNown and a number of others. And they told Jarman that they expect better leadership from him to fix this program, that there's been a terrible disconnect at UCLA in recent times with the past hires, Chip Kelly, Foster, terrible disconnect from all the great players of yesteryear. And it should not be that way. It's not that way at a lot of other universities. Then Rick Neuheisel from CBS pops off and says, "I have no confidence in the athletic director. We need to find someone else to lead us." And legendary offensive lineman, NFL star, CBS broadcaster Randy Cross, UCLA grad, "This place is leaderless. This place is clueless. This place is rudderless. It's been decades upon decades of failure with the athletic directors you have put in place. Where's the leadership from the chancellor?" So really ugly at UCLA because the legendary Bruins, led by Troy Aikman, have sounded off. So, John, we got big games, and we got some problems at Oklahoma State and UCLA.
Well, wait a minute. At UCLA, Deshaun Foster is one of the greats, right? I mean, they did go to the well there, and they hired the wrong guy, and he was resistant to the media. I don't know how well he encouraged a lot of the alumni to come back and connect.
Not.
Yeah, and that's a problem. But Deshaun Foster, you would think if it were any other coach that was there that got fired, that Deshaun Foster would be part of this committee with Cade McNown and Troy Aikman and everybody else. So, I don't know. It's just a mess. I think the AD needs to be fired. Mike Gundy, OSU, the thing I always remember him is, "I'm a man, I'm 40. I just will never, ever forget that. Bummer for Johnny Mateer. I mean, I think he's like a fifth-year guy, and he's kind of wants to go out with a big flourish in college ball, and he's out for 4 weeks. That's a bummer. I kind of chuckled when you talked about the Alabama-Georgia game. You said between the hedges. And this is incredible because immediately I had the vision of watching the games on TV, and it's that brick wall and the green hedge.
Yes.
But I never put 2 and 2 together that the hedges were at Georgia.
Yes.
Okay. And it's also, I've never heard the term between the hedges, but I would imagine that's a commonly used phrase when making remarks about Bulldog football.
Oh, all things in the SEC. You just hang with me, I'll teach you a lot.
So I just thought that was an interesting comment. And by the way, you said the Ohio State game is at Washington.
In Seattle.
In Seattle. But didn't you broadcast from Husky Stadium?
Yeah. It's cool. What a great venue.
But it's loud in there. I mean, because aren't the bleachers metal and the roof is metal and the sound bounces around?
Yep. It's really a hostile environment. It's scenic. It's right there on Lake Washington. I mean, it's a fabulous place. I'm intrigued to see how Jalen Salen, the freshman quarterback at Ohio State, handles this. Granted, he's surrounded by really great players in a great program, but this is a pretty bloody, hostile environment.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is I was on that road. There was like a bridge that goes over Lake Washington, and I'm going into Seattle, and all of a sudden, like, hey, look, there's the stadium. You could see, like, when you look through the passenger window, you could see straight through, to the other end zone.
Yeah, very much so. And how about Penn State? How about that stat? I mean, James Franklin's done a great job, and they've recruited speed, and it's a much better program now. It's been in a long period of time. But he's 5-20 against top-rated teams. So, I mean, there's a huge question that we have to get to by the time we get to Saturday night in State College.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. But they've always had to play Michigan or Ohio State. So that's most of those cases. But I was thinking when you were talking about Oregon, it's going to be on the road in Penn State, right?
Yes.
At Happy Valley. So that's like a cross-country trip. And we've made a lot of remarks, like when, USC and UCLA joined the Big Ten. He's like, who cares about UCLA versus Rutgers or Maryland and cross-country? But now here is almost a coast-to-coast cross-country, and yet we're celebrating it. Because it's the quality of the teams.
Yeah, it's 2 versus 3.
Well, yeah, it's huge.
So real good. Hey, you're a college football fan? Feel free. Jump on board if you want to talk college football. Let's talk NBA basketball. Hard to believe. With all the things that are happening in our world of sports, NBA camps are about to open next week, too.
Yeah, I know. And I'm seeing college basketball camps as well.
Yeah, let's just talk very briefly. Remember the name Ace Bailey? He was the kid out of Rutgers, that high #1 draft pick that dropped down the board.
Yeah.
Because they dropped hints through his agent. Don't draft me, I don't want to play for you. He dropped all the way to 5, and he wound up in all places, Salt Lake City with the Utah Jazz. Ace Bailey just fired his agent, Omar Cooper, the guy that laid all the groundwork for him to come down the board. The kid, who is very immature, told the agent, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go there, make sure you infer that message. Now I fired the agent who delivered the message. The kid is in Utah. And Utah said, we're drafting you. He didn't want to play in Utah. We're drafting you. You're coming to camp. I don't want to be here. You're going to be a Utah Jazz. This bears watching. I think he's the 5th pick in the draft. And look at that situation. New Orleans, they've had a great player, Zion Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
ACC. I mean, tremendous college career. Has just been besieged by injuries. His career has just been a disaster. Yet he's the focal point of New Orleans, is making mega money. New general manager coming in the front door. Tough guy. Joe Dumars. He played guard for the bad boys of the Detroit Pistons.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Dumars.
He was the microwave, wasn't he?
No, that was Vinny Johnson.
Yeah, that's right.
Joe Dumars is a hell of a player.
Yeah, he was.
Anyhow,
he is.
He played, Joe's a very proud guy. He's from Louisiana. He played at McNeese State. Anyhow, he's the new general manager in New Orleans. So they have their media day yesterday, and he stands up and he says, plain and simple, you're on the clock. Talking about Zion Williamson. And he says, you will now be accountable for anything and everything. Good. And Zion Williamson has had nothing but injury problems, almost as if he's a malcontent. I mean, this guy comes to camp where he's 280, and he just keeps getting hurt. You can say bad luck. Well, he's in bad shape all the time, too. So it's interesting. Joe Dumars, who was part of the bad boys in Detroit, you are going to be accountable for what you do. Interesting. And in Houston, Rockets, they tried so hard and they built so many good young players. And here we are just days before the camp opens, and they lose their star guard, Fred VanVleet. He's kind of a glue guy, chemistry guy. Tears a knee ligament this past week, working out on his own. Gone for an extended part, if not most, of the coming season. That's a big setback for the Houston Rockets, who traded and drafted really, really well. And they looked like they were right on the brink of being really, really special. So we got NBA camps will be opening in a week, but those are some late-breaking stories.
Interesting comments here. Ace Bailey, I don't blame him. I mean, in any other profession, you can't just be drafted by, a corporation and then you're their property or you're allocated to them, and you should be able to work for who you want to work, provided they want to hire you. Now, granted, I know this is sports and there's a draft and everything else, but when a player or an agent or the player's dad contacts these teams and say, hey, don't draft my kid, he doesn't want to play for you, I mean, that obviously is awful for the fans of that team, and we went through that with the Manning family here in San Diego. Yep. But from the player perspective, it makes total sense. I mean, you should tell them where you want to play, or more specifically where you don't want to play. Now, granted, I know that ruffles feathers, but, these people aren't like chattel property. I mean, they should have a little more say in where they land. Because, I mean, imagine if you were an NFL player and you got drafted and you got picked up by the Cincinnati Bengals, as an example. I mean, that'd be horrible. I mean, it's a disgraced franchise.
They're trying to change the collective bargaining agreement.
Well, the collective bargaining agreement, I know that they probably have to give in to owners to let them have, kind of the right to you when they draft you, but in exchange, you get a lot of money and they get all these other benefits. So
it's the same thing in the NBA.
All the sports are like that. But in my opinion, it's not. It shouldn't reflect poorly on Ace Bailey or his agent or his family if he told 3 or 4 teams, he said, hey, man, don't pick me. And if they pick him anyways, then they know what they're getting. It's going to be a problem. The other comment is the Pelicans guy, Zion Williamson. He's one of those guys where you don't need to see like anything in color. You just need to see a silhouette.
You know who it is.
And you know exactly who he is. He looks like a cartoon character from the Flintstones,
He looks like a young Charles Barkley.
Yeah, he does, yeah. It's just his body shape is like slightly like disproportionate to a lot of other NBA players. And so when you see him, you kind of do a double take. But I remember he was at Duke. I mean, that guy was a beast.
For 1 year.
Yeah, and it's really sad the way his NBA career has unfolded.
But he's not handled himself correctly.
No, he hasn't.
So, anyhow, Joe Dumars, tough guy leader, you will be accountable. So that bears watching. Okay, last topic on the table. I'll tell you, Friday is going to be so much fun. You get your ass out of bed at 4:15 a.m. West Coast time Friday morning because we got the Ryder's Cup.
The Ryder's Cup, man. This is going to be fun.
Bethpage Black, Long Island. It's going to be golf like you've never seen before. And I'm going to be intrigued to see this because this is all about New Yorkers. New York fans showing up early, partying, drinking. There's a level of etiquette when you're around the green and on the fairways and at the first tee. They hold up a sign that says silence.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, not at Bethpage.
No,
not for the Ryder Cup.
Is this going to be like Scottsdale Waste Management Open?
Oh, probably worse.
Really?
Yes.
This is must-see TV.
That's what I said. Get your ass up at 4:15 tomorrow morning, West Coast 10 for the first round. There's all kinds of storylines going into this. I mean, it's obviously Team USA versus Europe. It's been dominated by the European side. They've won 10 of the last 14. This is played every other year. But more recently, it's been dominated by the country that's been the host. So it's because it's on Long Island, they're of the opinion USA probably has an edge. That's not what the roster says on paper. It's also been dominated by a lot of stuff off the course this week. There's a pay dispute. This is really intriguing. Pro Golf here in the States decided, because they're all making so much money, they were going to make or give every player on Team USA $500,000.
Okay.
To play for the flag. And then they put an asterisk. John Riley, you're playing for Team USA. Now you have to take $300,000 of the $500,000, and we want you to direct it towards a special charity of your choice. And the players all agreed to it. They'd never been paid for this. Of course, they're all making mega money. They say, we'll do it. European players say no. We don't need money to play for our flag. So they made a big thing of it Monday at the press conferences. Luke Donald, who's the captain of the European team, said, why should you have to be paid to play for your flag? Which pissed off Team USA. At which point Scotty Scheffler the next day showed up on Tuesday and announced every one of his players have voted. They're going to take the $500,000 per man. It's all going to charity. So we got that. There's been a lot of criticism and lashback from guys looking the other way about the guys who went to LIV and got the big payday and now coming back acting like they're one of the fellas. Some of it directed at DeChambeau from Team USA, some of it at John Rahm from Team Europe. That's intriguing. Brandel Chambly from the Golf Network, he goes public. He says, I would not want DeChambeau as part of my team. He says he's a captain's nightmare. He won't shut up. He talks about everything. He says he's going to be a distraction. DeChambeau's all upset. Why are you criticizing me? I'm playing for my flag. Well, it's because of who you are and how you act. So DeChambeau is catching a lot of heat. It's going to be fun because you've got the greatness of Scheffler, who's won 15 tournaments in the last 2 years, and you got McIlroy, who finally accomplished the victory in the Masters and has just become a global personality and star unto himself. You got guys that are very emotional. This bears watching. When you're the drunk or standing on the green at the 17th hole barking as these guys get ready to putt, there's a couple of Europeans that are very emotional, like Ty Hatton and Justin Thomas just might throw a club at you. So it's going to be intriguing to see how the American crowd, all liquored up on the 17th hole, treats some of these European players who don't have a high propensity of being tolerance. So that bears watching. And then there's all kinds of other storylines. J.J. Spaun looks like he's arrived as a star on the PGA Tour, the ex-San Diego Stater. How's he going to play at this next level? Xander Schauffele, who's really fought through a lot of injuries, just isn't the same player as he was a couple of years ago. How's he going to play? How about Tommy Fleetwood? Want to have a beer, guys? We'll go to the pub after this thing is over. How's he going to cope with the crowd? Because he kind of became a real popular figure on the PGA Tour at the end of the year. You got Robert McIntyre, the Scottish star, who's stoic, whose game has really come together. And you got an unbelievably popular veteran in Justin Rose, who's kind of become a global figure just because he's so consistent and so unique. Will he play well? And he's in kind of the sunset of his career. But boy, he'd love to play for his flag out of England and get it done. So there's just so many storylines. And you ever been drunk at 7:15 in the morning? I swear to you, it's going to happen. It's going to happen on the 17th hole tomorrow at Bethpage Black. They're expecting more than 55,000 fans per day at that golf course.
This is awesome. I mean,
it really is.
I had no idea that they were going to be liquored up and it was going to be a rowdy crowd.
Yep.
So that's going to make this a lot of fun to watch. I saw photos. I think it was yesterday. They had sort of a pre-tournament like ceremony, and they had like a little stage up there, and they had all the golfers there with their blazers, and there was a podium and everything, and there was a huge swarm of fans there. So this is going to be fun, and apparently the course is brutal. I mean, it's really hard.
It's really long. Yeah, exactly. It's very special, and the Ryder Cup has hardly ever been held in the state of New York. So golf fans going to be there early, probably going to be juiced. And what it used to be called the gentleman's game? No, not Thursday, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No, not there.
So they're only going to do 3 rounds of golf, but each round is like a different kind of a game, right?
Yeah. You've got best ball, and I'm trying to think how I can phrase this. There's alternate shots. There's best ball. Then there's match play. So there's 5 matches in the morning. There'll be 5 matches in the afternoon. The captains will pick who faces whom. There'll be different styles of play on Friday.
Like a pickup game on a basketball court.
And then on Sunday, there will be wall-to-wall matches, head-to-head competition. It's very different.
This will be interesting. Okay, now, see, is this a PGA-sanctioned event, or it's totally separate, right?
No, it's a globally sanctioned event.
But here are the PGA golfers doing match play, and we don't do match play here in the PGA.
Well, this only because historically this is important. It's not some gimmick like LIV has tried to throw at us.
All right. Well, anyways, it's going to be fun to watch. And by the way, when you were talking about, like, when the U.S. players said, okay, $200,000 to the player, $300,000 to the charity, it's kind of part of the deal. I'm like, Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And then, here come the Europeans rolling in and go, these like total altruists, and said, no, we will sacrifice for our country. We will give all of our money away, and we will take the moral high ground. And I'm like, come on, man. I mean, these guys deserve to get paid. I mean, it's, you don't need to, just because you're playing for the flag doesn't mean you need to play for free. I mean, do you think Team USA and any other sport doesn't get paid? Of course they do.
But the Euros don't get paid.
But see, that's the thing.
Then they made a big issue about it.
Because they're trying to say we're better than you. We're morally superior to you greedy Americans. And that's dumb. Granted, it's another interesting sideline that we can talk about. But anyway, I just hope it's going to be kind of a fun tournament to watch.
It's going to be great. Okay, we have put a lot of different topics on the table. So we invite you now to step up. Want you to join us. The Fans Forum chat box is open. Again, we're talking Major League Baseball. We're covering the NFL. We got college football stories to talk about. And obviously, feel free to jump on board here. Ryder Cup, there's so many layers of really unique things to discuss as it relates to the Ryder Cup. This podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they got materials. You want ideas, they can be your best friend. Go to DIXIELINE.com, see all the things that they have to offer. John, are we ready? Because I'm ready. Because, man, we put a lot of stuff out there on the bulletin board
we did.
for people to take shots at.
Yeah, and let's start with baseball because that's really what's hot right now. And this is Carlos talking Dodgers. And he says, hey, looks like the Dodgers want to win the West today and celebrate by jumping in the pool like they did a few years back. Oh, wait, I forgot our bullpen.
Well, they got problems, but, they've got solutions, they think. I'll be intrigued. When we come back Monday and we do Monday's podcast at 1:30, they will have, at that point, probably turn their rosters in for postseason. I want to know which relief pitchers they're going to leave off because it's obvious they can't trust hardly any of these guys at all. And, the other thing is you can use Kershaw one time out of the pen, but he's not going to use him on back-to-back days. And Sasaki's never walked down this road before with high leverage. And is he able to throw back-to-back days? Now, he did at Oklahoma City over the final 2 weeks of rehab. Is he going to be a trustworthy guy back-to-back days? And then you still got Vessier. What do you do with Banda? And then what do you do with Tanner Scott or these other guys? Is anybody else you could trust there? So they got I think the Dodgers have a real significant problem, unless they're going to score 9 runs per game.
Well, if Dave Roberts had to have a sit-down meeting with all of his bullpen guys and kind of challenge their manhood, then, yeah, they've got an issue, and it's not going away, But I remember, it was a few years ago when the Dodgers won in Arizona and they jumped in the pool,
yep.
and that's fun, but, that's like a major disrespect to the Diamondbacks and their fans. But, the Diamondbacks they're still mathematically in it, right?
Yeah, there's 3 teams fighting for the last wild card spot. The Mets have got the thing jammed into reverse gear going backwards.
Yeah.
Cincinnati, which had a chance to play Pittsburgh and maybe sweep them and put themselves in, got beat in back-to-back games. People in Cincinnati are furious.
Well,
not just because of the Bengals. Now they're furious at the Reds for choking us away. And you got Arizona, which is playing our guts out, having traded so many people away at the deadline.
But they got the bullpen, the Dodgers bullpen, and bit them.
Yep.
A couple of times. The snake was biting. So, yeah, the Dodgers, their magic number's 1 right now. So if they win 1 game or the Padres lose 1 game, it's over. There was that. We could have put a thread through a needle to maybe get the Padres to win the NL West, but it was going to be hard.
Well, to me, my private concern was, Padres are celebrating. Okay, you made the playoffs. Okay, I understand that. But, guys, you're only 1.5 back of the Cubs at that point. Let's just dive in here and try to complete this, get the top wild card spot, which is home field at Petco Park, which is huge. And it didn't happen. And then they partied hardy, and then Mike Schultz resting guys when they still had a chance.
But they won with that one. When the roster had all those backup guys that were playing, and Manny and Merrill were all sitting in Tatis, they won that game. And then the next game, they rolled out, most of their starters, and they lost. So, I don't know. The Dodgers are going to win this thing. Sasaki, Kershaw, You know, Sheehan, they got options in the bullpen. And, you know, Dave Roberts has got his nerds upstairs that are probably running the numbers, and they'll have a plan.
Okay, let's move on here. Carlos, thanks for joining us. Tell your friends about what we do Mondays and Thursdays on this podcast. Next one, John.
Okay, let's talk Padres. A two-parter from Matthew. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen, from Indianapolis. And then he says, from Michael. And he says, Padres have said Game 1, Pivetta, Game 2, Michael King, Game 3, Yu Darvish, long relief, Dylan Cease.
Well, I concur. My theory is, though, Game 2 is hugely important. Darvish has the world of experience. I would go Darvish with an insurance policy behind him, and then Michael King with an insurance policy behind him if we get to Game 3. The Padres, you know, we don't know how many quality innings Vasquez could give them, but he's pitched better recently. We don't know about the inconsistency of Cease. That's why he's not going to be in the rotation. But to me, more important is Darvish's experience as Game 2 starter. And if he staggers, then you got somebody out of the pen. Whereas King, we had that really bad outing, then we had a pretty decent outing. But I don't know. This is not at Petco Park. This is on the road. This is at Wrigley Field, and King's giving up home runs, and you know how the ball flies out of Wrigleyville. I don't know. You agree or disagree with me about who should start 2 and 3?
Well, you may not get to Game 3, you know, so you got to put your top 2 pitchers 1 and 2. And I'm with you. I think Darvish deserves that number 2 spot because of the experience. And you kind of wonder about King because he's young, you know, and he was so great last year and even in the early part of this year before he got hurt. But he was sketchy, you know, 2-3 starts ago. Mm-hmm. And you kind of wonder if that would be in the back of his mind. And
it's at Wrigleyville.
Right. And if the wind's blowing out, holy crap. Because did they hit like 4 or 5 home runs off him 2 starts ago?
4 of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, this makes sense. But are these games like 3 in a row or is there any off day in there?
It's boom, boom, boom.
Jeez. Yeah, you definitely need like a long relief strategy because you can't have your 4 or 5, 6-pack horsemen pitch in all 3 of those games.
Yeah, well, you've got a long relief strategy. Whether or not you subscribe that Vasquez has totally arrived, but he's given him more quality innings than anything. And over a 4 innings spurt, maybe Vasquez is really dominant. And I don't know what to buy about Cease because he can be so good and so dominant and strikes out guys, and then it goes away in 1 inning, and then it comes back. So, but at least he's got experience. So if you get in trouble early with the starter, at least you got Vasquez to go to and Cease to go to, and you're backed up by the gold standard bullpen. But I would start Darvish for Game 2 only just based on his heritage and his expertise.
Well, there's a whole other line of argument that Randy Vasquez should be our number 1 or 2 starter. You know? I mean, he looked really good in his last start.
I concur, but there's also a big history of pitches well in spurts and all of a sudden has a really bad inning and it's over.
It seems like that happens to all of our pitchers, doesn't it? Okay, let's keep moving here. Go to Gordon.
Thanks, Mike.
And he goes, good afternoon, Leah John. With the uncertainty of Will Smith, why not pick up Austin Barnes before the playoffs? We know his hitting is questionable, but he's a great backstop. Great show as always.
Well, the only thing with Barnes has been out of baseball now for the better part of a month. You know, he was with 2 other clubs and then promptly got released. What you really need with a guy that's coming in, you're not going to take a guy off the street who has not played. Is what's his baseball conditioning like? So that's the big issue. They do like Dalton Rushing, and actually the third kid, the minor league kid, although he's not hitting, has played very well defensively. So yeah, they got a problem. But if Barnes had just been released last week, which meant he was playing and he was in game condition, maybe you'd look at that. But see, you can't add somebody from the outside now. Guy had to be on your roster or in your organization or having been on the 40-man roster by September 1st, and Barnes has been gone.
Yeah, I don't know much about the depth chart there. Mm-hmm. They can't call Martin Maldonado, so he's not eligible. You know, speaking of this, I'm kind of spinning back to the Padres, because with catchers, what's your thought about the Padres bringing up Luis Campusano? I mean, do you think he could be a DH? I mean, he probably wouldn't catch, but without Ramon Laureano, they got to replace him with somebody.
Well, he's a right-handed bat. Laureano was a right-handed bat, but the problem is, even though Campusano had a great season at AAA, he had no hits in major leagues this year. None.
Yeah, I think he was up like 20 or 25 times.
28, I think it was 28 plate appearances, a lot of strikeouts, and none.
Yeah, well, but, at least there's a chance. He's like the home run king of El Paso,
I don't think he'll be here next year. I think they'll use him as trade bait, let him go somewhere else and try to get something in return for him. Novel thought, but no, I don't see that happening.
Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Let's go to Greg. Lee and John, you could pick any pitcher, past or present. Who do you want to start Game 7 of the World Series? My pick, Koufax.
Koufax at his elite. Yeah, I'd say that's not a bad choice. We had this great debate amongst us. Greatest Dodger pitcher of all time. You think about that. I mean, and it's all related to Kershaw, whose career record's 222 and 96. But think of the Dodger history. Valenzuela, Don Sutton, Oral Hershiser, Koufax, Don Drysdale. I'm sure I'm missing a couple names here. Newcomb way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But
Pedro Martinez.
Yeah,
if you want to count him, but Bob Welch was pretty good there in the late 70s. He went on to the A's, if I recall,
but not for all time. I mean, Sutton had 223 wins. Kershaw's got 222.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Game 7 World Series. Koufax at his elite. Koufax.
Well, here's a few names maybe that aren't thought of. How about Jack Morris? Because he went 10 innings at one time, and there are other guys that, they had those peak years. Remember when Carlton was super dominant with the Phillies? Now, granted, the team was crap. They weren't playing in the World Series. But there were other, magical moments in baseball history, like Mark the Bird Fidrich or, some of these pitchers that appeared out of the clouds.
Flamed out, though.
But they flamed out. But some of those guys, when everything was going their way, it seemed like they could get anyone out. As another example is, who was his name? He pitched for the Cubs about 10 or 15 years ago, and he struck out 25 guys.
Big flamethrower. You asked me too quick.
Yeah, what's that guy's name?
Big right-hander.
Yes, and I'm blanking on his name.
But there's longevity comes into greatness,
well,
not
of course.
flash in
But
the
you
pan.
just got one day, a Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. So
how come you haven't mentioned Glavine, Smoltz, or Maddox?
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, definitely those
There's
guys.
so many great ones, but that's over longevity.
Yeah, or like Tim Lincecum or something. We could go down the list. But yeah, Koufax is a great pick. I don't know, Catfish Hunter, that'd be another one.
Yeah. Back in the day, Whitey Ford.
Did Nolan Ryan ever get into the World Series? He might have. Was he on the 69 Mets?
Yes.
He got into the World Series, but Ryan in his heyday would be a great Game 7 starter.
We'll just have Ryan throw against Koufax, see if anybody can hit anything.
Yeah, or maybe Dwight Gooden. Remember him.
Greg, thanks for being with us, man. Tell a friend. Hope you get some other people. Join us Mondays and Thursdays at 1:30. Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's go here to John. He goes, gentlemen, your Padres starting roster, closer, manager, combining 84, 98, and 25. Here's mine. Kevin Brown, Terry Kennedy, Wally Joyner, Alan Wiggins, Manny Machado, Gary Templeton, Greg Vaughn, Jackson Merrill, Tony Gwynn, Trevor Hoffman as the closer, and Bruce Bochy as the manager.
That's nice, but now if we're going to compare that, how does that compare? How does that match up with the legendary Dodger great teams that have been in the World Series? And if we're going to really reach here in terms of this topic here, John, how does that compare to all things Yankee baseball? The Mantle, Maris era. I mean, we start cherry picking, well, these teams from the illustrious Padre franchises were pretty good. Well, compare it to the teams that dominated baseball, Yankees and Dodgers, and the Padres don't look in the same stratosphere as the Yankees and the Dodgers. No?
No. I mean, there's only 2 Hall of Famers, plus Bochy if you count him. But I think those are logical choices. I don't know. I'd probably start a different shortstop. I mean, maybe Xander or Khalil Green, I think.
No, Khalil was only there 15 minutes.
But he was good when he was playing. And so, and then like Joyner at first base, I'd rather have Fred McGriff than Wally Joyner, but McGriff wasn't in one of these years. Kevin Brown, that'd be hard to top him. Yeah, I mean, that's a good choice right there. I like that.
It's a unique question off the top of my head, but if we're comparing greatness to the Padres, how do you compare it with the greatness of all the great Dodger teams and the Yankee teams? To me, it doesn't match.
Well, but, pick any team that's only existed for 60 or so years. They're not going to have very many Hall of Famers on their all-time roster either. So, the Yankees and Dodgers, they got a lot of guys to pick from.
Okay, we move on.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
Let's go here to Timer 20. Because I'm, as an Angels fan, I'm hoping the Skaggs family gets every penny of that $785 million. Then hopefully the stadium audit will make Artie finally sell the team, because 11 years of no playoffs is enough.
Franchise in disarray. Franchise has really gone through a bad time. But this is a separate entity story. This is about personal decisions that Tyler Skaggs made, and that's the sorrowful part of this, that he cost himself his own life because of his own addictions. I know a lot of those people in that organization. I'd have a hard time believing that anybody would sanction anything that happened there. I mean, this was done by a public relations director who had his own addiction, and then obviously went out and got stuff for other players. And this one player who was really addicted and had that initial addiction that came with him from the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's a terribly tragic story. I just have a hard time believing anything that Artie Moreno, and he's had some good people, that are friends of mine that have worked there, that they would ever be involved in sanctioning any of this. It's just a sad, sad commentary. Should Moreno sell the franchise? Yes, because the success has just gone away, and I don't know that they can recapture it at all. They really need new direction. And the fact that he was going to sell it and then backed away from it, that's not good either. It's just a very complicated, but to me it's a tragic, tragic story. And you just saying, I hope the Skaggs family wins every penny they can get. Then in essence you're telling me that Moreno's to blame for this. I don't see it that way. That just off the top of my head, my gut reaction. I deal with these players all the time in clubhouses and in Major League Baseball and NFL, NBA, and the NHL. So I've seen all this stuff and been around it and understand it. But it's a terrible outcome.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, obviously you want justice to be done, but how do you put a price on a life? In $785 million, that's a lot of money. Is your life worth that? You could say, yeah, it is, but it's kind of an arbitrary number. It makes you wonder how they came up with that number.
Well, it's represented by one of those very outspoken lawyers in Texas.
Okay.
Rusty, I can't remember his last name. He's represented a number of big people in big money lawsuits. It just seems like the number is probably based on some fraction of the Artie Moreno's net worth, as opposed to something objectively connected, like with Skylar Skaggs, like future earnings or something. I don't know how you pick a number like that. But all this conversation about money and ownership, and I don't like the owner, so therefore I hope he loses I'm not sure that's necessarily fair. And for me, unless we have a bunch of other Angel people who are going to stand up here, nobody's blaming Tyler Skaggs for what Tyler Skaggs got himself involved in. Does that fall into this conversation, the equation? Should it? The trial, the court cases, it's going to be steamy. It's going to be sleazy. It's going to be angry. It's going to be hurtful. It's going to be a sad 2-week trial.
But you might see Mike Trout on the stand, right? I mean, some ball players.
If he gets deposed. Well, I think there will be ball players who will be dragged into this who've already been deposed.
Interesting.
Trout is an innocent bystander only because he was in a clubhouse and only because he tried to do an intervention with the PR director and get him into rehab and even willing to pay for his own rehab. But Trout's not involved like these other players were. The guy, Matt Harvey's of the world, are actually getting pills from Eric Kay and getting stuff from Tyler Skaggs. Those guys are more deeply entwined with what happened to the Angel pitcher who died than Mike Trout, a teammate.
Interesting. Matt Harvey is an interesting name because I remember he was really good. Was it for the Mets? Mm-hmm. And then he got hurt, and then he kind of bounced around, and he was with the Angels. So he was going through his own physical woes. I don't know. I'm speculating here. Did he feel like he needed some kind of painkiller for him to get through his challenge? So I don't know. This speaks to not just this Skaggs specific issue, but all the things that ball players are dealing with, injury-wise, pitchers, stress on the arm. It's all linked.
Well, I mean, obviously painkillers and things of that nature are available under prescription. but they should not be available in terms of going outside the circle. And I go back to my original comment earlier in the podcast, where the hell was the union while all this was going on? And this player had this deep a problem with an addiction that goes back as far back as 2013.
Yeah.
I mean, he was addicted to Percocet from 13 till he got to the Angels. He died in 19 from all the other things that he was taking.
Well, okay, not to excuse the behavior, but opioids are terribly addicting.
Yes.
And I've been on opioids and felt the draw of the addiction. I had to take a step back.
Well, me too. You got to have it.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to have that kind of self-awareness. But now it's so much harder to get a prescription for an opioid. I mean, the pendulum has swung the other way. There's a lot of people suffering, not just ball players, but regular people that have pain and can't get pain relief. And I think that's what drives people into these black markets. They're getting these drugs from God knows who, and in this case, stuff laced with fentanyl. I mean, you can't trust where that stuff's coming from.
I agree with you. Well, we'll try to cover it as best we can. I'll be writing on it on my website on a day-by-day basis once this trial gets started. But check my column that I wrote this morning, One Man's Opinion, because I tried to cover it from every conceivable angle there was. Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's go here to Alejandro. Is Eli a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Well, he was on it last year, did not get voted. But he's close. Again, he won multiple Super Bowl rings. And that really seems to be a prerequisite for a quarterback. Have you done this? Now, if you set all types of passing records, a.k.a. Dan Fouts, who never ever got to a Super Bowl, yet he created an aura of the Air Coryell era, I think Eli eventually gets in. I think Eli gets in before Phillip Rivers gets in. Probably Eli gets in before Drew Brees gets in. But, I mean, they're all great quarterbacks in their own light. Postseason success, though, does carry a little bit more clout than just great volume numbers that these other quarterbacks piled up.
Eli's definitely in, as far as I'm concerned. But I'll bet you that Breeze will go first amongst those three, then Manning, then Rivers, in that order. And then, granted, some of them might be inducted in the same year. But what's funny about Eli Manning is obviously him and his brother, they're like geniuses with the amount of money and fame that they're generating, just in endorsements and these ESPN sort of live calling of the games and everything. But it's interesting to me how Peyton Manning obviously is the character, kind of the type A personality, the attention seeker. And Eli Manning is just like a quiet, nerdy guy.
Goofy.
And kind of goofy. And yet he's getting endorsement deals on his own. I think he was doing like Jersey Mike's or something like that. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to have a Manning brother be your spokesman, you'd think you'd pick Peyton. But, maybe Eli has a big following. I don't know.
It's just the personality. I don't think Eli's got a great personality.
He's a
Peyton
dud
has
to me.
developed personality. I mean, the marquee guy right now in Neon Lights, because you turn your TV on, he's on everywhere on my TV, Jason Kelsey. He's just amazing.
Well, I keep seeing Sidney Sweeney.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going here. And this is an interesting comment from Mario. I'm trying to read between the lines. I think this is talking about the Dodgers and the bullpen with Kershaw and Sasaki. And Mario says, just because it worked against the Diamondbacks don't mean it will work, LOL.
Well, understand this. You can only use Kershaw one time. He's not going to pitch back-to-back days because his starter regimen won't allow it. Now, Sasaki did pitch back-to-back over the final 2 weeks of his rehab at Oklahoma City when they decided to take him out of the rotation, and they told him, we want you to go one inning, max effort, use your best stuff. His best stuff is 100-mile-an-hour fastball and the splitter. Just go one inning, and he did go back-to-back 2 different times of the 3 relief appearances he made. So if he's going to be a closer, maybe he's going to be the guy. I just don't know that you can trust Tanner Scott any longer, and all of a sudden all these other guys are already on the disabled list right now. The wild card is the long reliever Emmett Sheehan. If their starters get in trouble, then Emmett Sheehan might be a long reliever. But again, Emmett Sheehan is a starter. I don't think they're going to ask Emmett Sheehan to go back-to-back days either. There's a pitching regimen for starters. You've got to protect them, and you're not going to ask them to go back-to-back. So Sasaki, to me, more is going to be the potential to be a closer because I think he can go back-to-back days.
Yeah. I think so too. But Kershaw, he's not going to be a starter. I mean, even if it's a 7-game series, they've still got 4 other guys ahead of him. At least. So you think Kershaw, he's kind of doing the John Smoltz thing. It's like, I'll be a bullpen guy. And that's like a cool way to kind of go out, on his final year. But it was someone else here had a comment about Sasaki. And I think it was Casey. It says, good afternoon, guys. Hacksaw, I thought Roki Sasaki looked good last night for my Dodgers coming in to relieve. And what I think about him being a closer during postseason, possibly.
Yep. And again, just spin back to what I just said. He's got the ability, because he's already done it, being able to go 2 days in a row out of the pen, max effort, or you can't ask Kershaw to go 2 days in a row, and they probably would not ask Sheehan.
That's that. I agree with you. I think that makes sense.
You agree with me?
I do agree with you. Yeah, I do.
Look at you and say, why you're agreeing with him?
Well, sometimes I agree with you. Okay, now this is a kind of an interesting question. I don't know if this is a challenge or a reveal or just a sincere question from David. What's the best food and drink at Snapdragon?
I don't know. The prices are so high. I've not bought any food at Snapdragon at all. They don't do much in the press box either. It's just,
really?
Yeah, it's kind of...
They don't wheel in some good grub? I mean, you guys are like their marketing
no, they don't.
Group.
No, it's not at all. I just have a problem philosophically with everything from a price standpoint that they've done at Snapdragon from the minute they open the stadium. And that's why I think the community has a problem. That's why I think there's no support. And, Aztecs for life may disagree with me, and that's okay if you're a San Diego State alum. But I just look at the gross attendance numbers, and they're just way off from what they should be for a Division I program, and that has not won recently either. But so I can't answer that question only because I don't go downstairs and I don't buy a lot of food, and I don't hardly eat anything in the press box because there's nothing there that's special to me outside. I mean, it's a sub sandwich. Okay, fine. I can get a sub sandwich anywhere. That's okay.
It's an interesting question because I've been to 2 or 3 games, and every time I've eaten before I've gone in. Mm-hmm. If it was either at a tailgate or we went out to some bar and restaurant prior to the game. But I remember when I was walking in, they had, like, behind glass, it looked like a really nice sort of like a bar environment, like an indoor, like something you'd see at Petco. Mm-hmm. And then I remember walking around the concourse, and of course you have your regular concession stands that sell hot dogs and, beer and popcorn. But then they had a lot of like these independent people that had their own sort of trailer booth, like you would see at Peoria for the Padre games, that had a little bit more creative, I wouldn't say exotic, but maybe creative food.
Unique cuisine.
Yeah, exactly. And so some of those actually look pretty good. But the place that every time I've gone also, I've only had just regular seats. I want to go into that. There's like a deck over the end zone. It's like a plank, like you would see at a pirate ship or like a diving board or something. I want to go up there and watch the game. I think that looks like it'd be pretty fun because I know they serve beers up there.
Yeah, they did a press conference up there, and before they opened, they had us all come down, and they took us actually all over the stadium, which was kind of a cool trip. And then they took us to that end zone thing that you're making reference to, where you actually stood out at the edge of this bar, look into the end zone, through the end zone, up the field. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, I really like that stadium, and the product on the field is improving, so there's hope.
We'll see what they do this weekend at Northern, Illinois.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, let's go to social media, and as long as we're talking Aztecs, let's get this Aztec comment in here. This is from Brian. He goes, San Diego State obliterated Cal. Nice job, Aztecs. Cal should give up football and stick to rugby.
Well, Cal's coming back. That coach has done a really good job there, Justin Wilcox, and that was a setback for them because they had played really well the week before when they punctured Minnesota in a Big Ten game, but they really got ambushed, and that was game planning. That was the Aztecs' defensive coaching staff coming up with a game plan of taking away things from that quarterback and making him stand in the pocket, go through his progressions, and then that kid, Sagapatelli, started throwing balls into coverage because he couldn't find the right guys. They took away the first option, and he was holding it, and there was pressure around him. They started throwing into double coverage. That's why they had the interceptions. The 10 pass deflections was phenomenal. But that was a game plan that worked against a freshman quarterback, a freshman who had hardly ever probably seen that stuff before. Now, they're going to go to Northern Illinois this weekend. I guarantee you this. DeKalb, Illinois is a tough place to play. And They're going to run the football until your eyes water and your nose bleeds. That's what Northern Illinois does. And so they're going to test the manhood of San Diego State's defensive front. But again, the Aztecs have strength in numbers on defense. The Aztecs are going to come after their Northern Illinois' very young quarterback. And they're going to come in a lot of guys at a line of scrimmage and say, you think you can run the damn ball? Well, here's a 7-man front, and we're going to blitz on running downs too. So that chess match is really going to be good. This Aztec defense is really good. It's really fast. It's really deep. I mean, they made that game against Cal a street fight, and they won it. So we'll see what they do here this week against Northern. If they could win this and come back at 3-1, because then they go into the conference, and I don't know how good this conference is right now. I'm not quite sure it's as deep as I thought it was going to be. They get in a conference, maybe they put a thing together. And all you need to know is Sean Lewis's history is flipping programs. By the middle of his second year at Kent State, that thing was starting to cook.
Okay.
So let's just see what happens in DeKalb. But they're going to test their manhood.
Well,
I'll guarantee
didn't Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame?
Yes, a year ago.
So this isn't a cupcake at all.
They beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
They ran the ball, and that was very impressive.
But I would imagine that the defensive coordinator for the Aztecs probably knows going in that they're going to put a double team on Trey White on the line. So you've got to figure out a scheme for all the other guys.
That's right.
Right? And to make that work. So I don't know. I'm surprised, by the way, that Cal wants anything to do with San Diego anymore. I mean, because remember that San Diego stinking state or whatever that was? Way back. And then even UCSD had their first ever Division I basketball victory was over the Cal Golden Bears. I think when was it their first ever? Yeah, I think it was their first ever. So Cal should just quit coming to San Diego.
Well, I was shocked. And it was a question I meant to ask Sean Lewis, and it totally flipped out my mind. I was going to ask him at the press conference on Monday, because he's been in football his whole life. I said, all the games you've played and coached in, have you ever had a situation where you've been on the field for 19 plays, over 10 minutes, 75 yards, and the other guy didn't score? That's how well they played. And then they got progressively better and better and better. And then it dawned on me, they're doing some things schematically against this freshman quarterback that Cal's got. And this kid didn't know where to go with the football because his number one option was taken away. And then you get hits on the quarterback, then you get sacks, then you're thrown into double coverage, and you get pass deflections, then you get the turnovers. I mean, it was classic what they did with the game plan against that kid. But that's a one-time thing against a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, but still, it's something nice to build on. And, Sean Lewis is, he's getting a little bit of heat here in year two. So wouldn't it be just a great story, if they became this Cinderella team, run the table in the Mountain West? I mean, stranger things have happened.
The best thing would be if they became a Cinderella team and this town responded, put its arms around this football program.
Oh, they will. Yeah, if they win, they'll come.
Okay, we move on.
Okay, let's do some Clipper talk, and this is with Ronald. And talk about Kawhi. He says, don't suspend the guy we never get to see play anyway. Unfair to Zubac and everyone else. Just sentence Uncle to the firing squad. That seems more reasonable. Seriously, though, this really isn't the law. It's a CBA agreement violations, as far as I know. Suspend Harden for the playoffs would be okay.
He's talking about whether or not the league is going to take sanctions against Kawhi Leonard specifically if the salary cap investigation proves that they circumvented the rules. But the fact of the matter is, if indeed Kawhi's uncle and his agent asked for all these things and he knew it was a violation, they kept asking, and they wound up getting it, does he not bear some penalty for what he did, in addition to what might be done to Ballmer, might be done to the Clippers? So this is a deep investigation. It's probably going to go into the middle of the season. We'll just find out as we go. But, again, when we broke that story and broke down all the things in the CBA that they could do to Kawhi, that's based on the fact Kawhi created this because they kept asking. They found somebody to give it to him, which was the salary cap violation. So if you're going to nail the Clippers, don't you have to nail the player to a degree too?
Yeah, this is just weird. Like I said,
Well, separate the fact you're a fan of who he was at San Diego. So let's just deal with this.
Yeah, well, but I am dealing with this. And in my opinion, that if Ballmer or someone else in the Clippers organization brokered an introduction to another company that could potentially endorse what Kawhi is doing, to me, I don't see that as being a problem. Now, the problem was the money. You follow the money, and the money went from the pockets of one of the associates of Steve Ballmer eventually into Kawhi's pocket. And that's clearly a violation. But my sense is, and I know like this much about it, but my sense is that the uncle has got to be a big part of the problem here.
Oh, he was at the end of the relationship in San Antonio. He definitely was in Toronto when they made demands, and the Raptors said, these are violations. We're not doing this. And obviously the demands he made from Ballmer, and then we find out this sidebar deal that they made with this consortium company. Again, Kawhi benefits from it. Kawhi's part of this, so I think he's got to pay a penalty.
Yeah, he'll end up getting penalized in some way. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. This is going to be a fun trial to fall.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for the input, Ron.
Okay, let's go Charger talk with Indelicious. He goes, don't be jumping on the Chargers train now, Lee.
Why not? I've been talking about Justin Herbert since the minute he got here from Oregon. That's the future of the franchise. Jumping on the train? No. I mean, I've been pretty critical of the makeup of their roster and their failures and their shortcomings, etc. But they're playing really well right now. And as long as they keep that quarterback upright and they keep those wide receivers and they got a ton of guys in their back seven defensively, why should I not tell you what I think? And I don't bury them just for the sake of burying them because they left here. I'll be critical of the Spanos for screwing this community. Somebody in the media needs to be critical of Team Spanos. But by the same token, I think Herbert's just a star. And I think that Joe Ortiz, the new general manager, has put together back-to-back really impressive drafts. So it's not like I'm bandwagon. I just pay attention to what they do on a year-by-year basis, what they add, what they delete, what they lose, etc. So I don't know. Do I look like a bandwagon guy?
It's funny because they always judge you as a fan rather than as a professional journalist, that's writing about these teams and commenting about these teams. They think, secretly, you're underneath, your shirt, you're wearing Charger underwear or something.
No, I like the quarterback. I dislike the owner. That's me.
Yeah. I think that's the consensus. I think here it's funny because even in San Diego, I feel myself, and I know a lot of other San Diego Charger fans are kind of feeling they're getting sucked back in because it is a fun team to root for. They got the quarterback is a great story. You still love those Charger powder blues,
sure.
And so it's like you want to come back to the ex-girlfriend, but it's probably not a good relationship. So you just watch from afar.
Well, I watch from afar, pay attention, etc. But to say I'm jumping on the bandwagon late, no. Well, I've been reporting on it from the day they left, and that was, 8 years ago? Oh.
Yeah. You never gave up. I'll give you credit. A lot of people gave you crap. Why are you still covering them? You said they're an NFL team in our reasonable proximity.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I cover the Rams extensively, too, and I've never had any emotional attachment to anything in the NFC because I was an AFC guy as a longtime voice of the Chargers and the Seahawks at that point. They were in the AFC at that point, too.
So we already know that as a kid, you grew up on Long Island. You went to Dodgers, Giants, Yankees games, but you were an Indians fan.
And a Cleveland Browns fan.
That was my next question, who your football team was.
Yeah, Cleveland Browns, Jim Brown. What a great era that was.
Okay, so that's who we might catch you homering for if we're going to catch you at all.
No, not now, but I mean that's who I grew up homering for.
Right. Do you ever feel bitter that what the Baltimore Ravens became is what the Browns should have been?
Oh, I was sick, and I worked in Cleveland. I've been here since 1987. I was in Phoenix prior to that, but I worked in Cleveland for 7 years prior to going to Phoenix. It was like a boyhood dream, moving to Cleveland to do sports talk, and I got hired to do hockey, and yet I was covering the Indians and working on the Browns network. I mean, it was so cool because that's where I grew up. I grew up as a fan of Chief Wahoo and the Cleveland Indians, and I grew up waiting to see Cleveland Browns, New York Giants football on black and white TV.
Living the dream.
Yeah, exactly. But I was heartbroken, and I had great respect for Art Modell. He was good to me. As a talk show host, but He was a great businessman in Cleveland. He did so many charitable things in Cleveland. He saved individually, John, he saved the Cleveland Clinic that was going into bankruptcy. Yes. And Art Modell was the creative genius that came up with the idea for Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
In the Rozelle era. But he was a bad businessman, and he did not have the bankroll, and he got in money trouble because he was signing free agents he couldn't pay for, and then the franchise fell apart, and then he made a mistake with the hiring of the young coach Belichick, and then he left in the middle of the night because he couldn't get a new stadium. But I was sick.
Middle of the night.
I was sick that they moved the Cleveland Browns. By that time, I was the voice of the Chargers, and I used to get a rush going back to broadcast at Old Municipal Stadium against the Browns. But we went in there. We played on a Sunday in October, the week after the Browns announced they were going to Baltimore, and it was like going to a funeral. I'd never seen anything like it. The stadium was half empty. They were fans who came were enraged. All the sponsors had canceled their contracts when Modell announced, it was late October, we're moving to Baltimore because we cannot get a stadium built. The stadium was naked. They took all the signage, all the corporate signage is gone. You know, the NFL now is all about neon and signs and there's a specialness to going to a game now with sponsorship. All that was gone. It was like going to a funeral. And we played in Cleveland there right after the days after they announced they were leaving. It was the strangest thing I ever felt.
Did the fan base have any sort of advance warning or even like spidey senses tingling? They kind of saw this coming?
No.
Because was it a battle for a new stadium? Isn't that usually what the problem is?
They were trying to get a new stadium built because the city of Cleveland had already, I'm trying to think the time frame, they had built a new stadium for the Indians. It became Jacobs Field, became Progressive Field. They had built a new stadium for the Indians. They had done nothing for Modell. And Modell had taken over Old Municipal Stadium when the city, Cleveland went bankrupt. And he put himself in a place in the 70s to save Municipal Stadium in addition to all the other civic things he was doing. But it drained him financially because it was an old stadium going back to the, 1930s.
You know what's funny is when I think of football games at the old stadium there, I just it's like the lighting is dark and the ground is muddy, and it's not like bright, sexy neon light kind of thing.
It's Cleveland, it's Lake Erie, the mistake on the lake. It's gray. That's
exactly.
What it is.
So it's just Brian Sipe or the drive, with the Browns and the Broncos and all that. Yeah, it's just mud in that field.
But I like Modell. I was heartsick when they announced they were moving. I couldn't believe it. And then for us to go in, and I was talking to Jim Laslovic, my color analyst, this week, and we were just talking about memories. And we talked about that Cleveland situation. I said, the strangest feeling you'd ever have to go into this historic stadium that was always selling out and have it half empty and have all the signage gone off the scoreboard and all around the stadium. It was just really eerie. That's where we are. I'm not jumping on and off the bandwagon, just covering the stories the way they should be covered.
Okay. All right, let's go down the list here, and here's some Dodger talk, and this is going to be from GL Munoz. Just a little dramatically, the Dodgers will be the third seed in the NL, so their season isn't burnt to the ground. The proven leadership in the Dodger organization will come up with a solution for the bullpen. Even in a down season, the Dodgers continue to outperform their little brothers in San Diego.
Oh, just feel free to spit on the guy down the I-5. Padres have played a lot of good baseball in the last 5 years. They just haven't not gotten to the World Series yet. Dodgers historically have always been a great franchise and have always drafted well. And are they the enemy? No, I don't think they're the enemy. I just think that they're a big market and they have done a fabulous, fabulous job. That being said, last year they saved themselves with bullpen days, and all of a sudden, now we'll see what next week brings, but all of a sudden now, here's Kershaw coming out of the bullpen, Sasaki's coming out of the bullpen, and both did well their first opportunities out of the bullpen. So let's just see what next week brings when the Dodgers have to play a best-of-3 at Dodger Stadium in a wild card round. So it's going to be fun.
Well, I think we all expected the Dodgers to win the division. I mean, nobody picked anybody other than the Dodgers, right? And
But they kept giving it away.
well, but I know. I mean, that's a problem. But I remember at the beginning of the year, you had the Diamondbacks 2 and the Padres 3, and obviously those two teams flip-flopped.
Well, because Arizona went into fire sale mode.
Yeah, and they had all those injuries and everything else. So the Dodgers are kind of, well, you thought maybe they would have been a 1 or a 2 seed. It didn't turn out that way. But the fact they won the division, Padres' little brother, yeah, I mean, that's just reality. As a Padre fan, I don't fight back on that because I know it's true. And it just makes the rivalry kind of fun. So one of these years, the Padres are going to get the Dodgers. Maybe is it this year? I think one of the UT writers was saying that if they meet, it won't be until the NLCS, the way that the brackets are lining up.
Could be. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers have won the division 12 times in 13 years. That's pretty dominant.
Yeah, but how many of those years did the Giants win the World Series coming out as a wild card?
Yeah.
A couple of them, so we'll see.
But the Padre window is closing. That's the big issue to me. And all my friends in the media seem to ignore that reality that there is no farm system now, and they've traded it all away, and you have all these older players with contracts. This window is closing. I thought it had to be last year or this year or maybe next year at the latest.
AJ's got boots on the ground. He's scheming.
Right.
He's working. They're going to restock. They don't rebuild. They what's the word for that? They just kind of restarted. They kind of reload.
Okay, if you say so.
Okay.
I still think the window's closing. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this podcast. We try to cover as much as we can, topics on the table. It's great to have you part of the Fans Forum. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas, talk to them. Just go to DIXIELINE.com. John, have we got a fun weekend? Final games of the season. Pennant races about to be decided. Playoffs start. We'll be back here Monday at 1:30 to talk about the matchups, talk about the NFL games, talking college football.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I think tonight's Thursday Night Football, right? Yep. So Seattle, Arizona.
Yes, sir.
So I think Seattle's got to be the favorite tonight, right?
Sam Darnold, Kyler Murray. We'll find out.
All right.
You have yourself a great sports weekend. Thanks for being part of our team. Hope you tell all your friends what we do Mondays and Thursdays. Thanks for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast app.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.